Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. It's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. After a gorgeous weekend, it felt like April. We've got to actually start talking about the potential for maybe a return to winter. Let's be honest. It's January. It's supposed to be cold and snowy. And at some point, I knew this pattern would start to change. And we're starting to see signs of that happening later this week into the weekend. Though, I will tell you that I think the snow chances for the Piedmont are pretty low right now. And I'll tell you why. We'll get into some of the details of that here in this morning's vlog. So let's first focus on the temperatures, because the one thing we've noticed lately, and this has been pretty much since I would say before Christmas, we've been stuck in this kind of mild pattern. El Nino winters tend to have a very active southern branch of the jet stream. That's what's been bringing us all the rain. Now what happens often though is the northern branch, which controls the cold air, sometimes gets trapped to the north, and they don't work together. So you end up with a bunch of rainstorms because, like we've seen since really going back to the fall, is that we've seen storm after storm after storm every 2 to 3 days. Now, in early December, everybody remembers, we did have some cold air link up with the southern branch of the jet stream, and we got a pretty good snowstorm. Now, again, a lot of this was from Charlotte north with record-breaking December snows along Interstate 40, areas just north of Charlotte. Charlotte ended up with about 3 inches of total snow and sleet accumulation. As you went south, it was just ice and rain. So the potential is always going to be there in an El Nino winter, and that's what you watch for. What's happening right now, and I'll show you kind of the wider view, is the cold air is starting to work its way back south. The northern branch of the jet stream is starting to dip to the south. So now we start looking for the potential for this syncing up with one of those southern branch jet streams. Well, ironically enough, the same week this happens, we actually end up with one of the driest patterns we've seen since mid-November. So we didn't see rain this weekend. We're not going to see rain for the next couple of days. In fact, it's going to be all the way until this potential winter storm coming up this weekend that we have the chance for precipitation again. So it's kind of interesting. Like now the southern branch, which has been so active, is kind of taking a little bit of a break. But don't worry, if you're a snow lover, things are going to sync back up. You can see what happens this week. Cold air starts to spill back southeast. You see all this kind of aqua color? That's below zero readings. Now, we don't expect below zero to move into the southeast, but when they start moving south into the Great Lakes region, that gives us a supply of cold air to our north. And you can see going into the later part of this week, especially Thursday and Friday, we start to see some cold air dipping down into the southeastern part of the country and especially the East Coast. At the same time, we've got a little wave of low pressure that develops here on the southern branch of the jet stream. So if you look at this, here's the northern branch taking a dip here with the cold air. The southern branch, there's a little dip right there. This is our storm system, which is going to push to the east and hopefully tap into some of this cold air if you want to see snow. But I'll tell you why there's some problems with this setup right now, just based on what I'm seeing. The good news is we are going to see a change to cold for skiers and snow lovers. So this should be great for the North Carolina mountains up into West Virginia as the cold air spills south and east. But what is often the case with these storm systems, it's not the first one that changes the pattern that you typically get winter weather out of. It's typically the follow-up system. So once this first system moves through this weekend, it'll probably set the stage for a better potential down the road because the cold air will reestablish itself. So those are the temperatures. Let's look at the radar precipitation, basically your future cast. So you can see this cold front comes through tonight into tomorrow. This cold front is going to be the one that kind of changes the pattern. You see the lake effect snow, and notice the flow. This is the dip in the jet stream that you would expect for colder air. So it's going to get much colder around here starting midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, as we go towards the end of the week, you can see that cold air is kind of still there. It starts to lift north a little bit, but here comes our southern branch of the jet stream. So the question mark is how much cold air is going to be left over here to push down, and how far north does this track? Because right now this looks to be tracking pretty far to the north, which people always ask, why does a storm track so important? People don't understand that the southern track is actually better for snow. The reason that is remember, low pressure looks like this. It's a low counterclockwise flow. So you got warm air being pulled north and cold air spilling south. So if the low tracks closer to you, it allows the warmer air to get pulled up. If the low tracks down here, that allows the cold air to come down further south. So that's basically why track is so important. And if you look at the track of this low as it's pushing to the east, you could see the cold air is really marginal. I'm going to flip this to sea surface pressures, because you could see the cold air damming, which is high pressure over basically upstate New York right here. Let me draw that. You could see it trying to supply the cold air, but the low itself is way too far north, and the high is too far north as well. We'd love to see this high a little further south to get better snow chances, and this low to be down. Either way, it looks like this initial batch of moisture probably, on Saturday could be a little snow or sleet. But with the low tracking so far north, you look at this. This is tracking over Jackson, Mississippi. We need this to track closer to like New Orleans or south to allow the cold air to get pulled in. As we go through Saturday afternoon, you could see the precipitation moves in. Then now north of Charlotte, looks like there could be a burst of snow, but it quickly starts changing to sleet, and then it changes to rain pretty quickly. So that starts to be pretty wet there. So maybe some snow at the beginning, then changing to rain pretty quickly. And the reason that is if I widen this out, you'll see the low is way too far to the north. The low is up here. The high is now way up here. So that's our supply of cold air, the high pressure. It's up here. It's not close enough. And the warm air is winning out. So it's pushing in. For us to be more, so what could happen, as we go towards the weekend? This low could track further south and this high could push down here, which would change the dynamic here. So this is why you're looking at just the potential right now. Right now, it doesn't look like a huge potential, but we've got some storm and cold air to work with. The ingredients are kind of on the table. It's just a matter of how these things set up. So that being said, you could see our probabilities of seeing snowfall or winter weather. Now, this, I should say winter weather, because this does include snow and ice. You could see generally there's a pretty big area of 10 to 30%. And then in the mountains, you've got a 30 to 50%. I actually would say I would probably start cutting this back a little bit, because I think the map I drew yesterday was pretty good. I think you're looking at more in here being the potential winter weather as we go from Saturday into Sunday. And then by Monday, it's pretty much gone. Some of the issues with the setup here is that the warm air at the surface, or the warm air loft we call it, basically the warm nose, looks to be pretty strong. And I was looking at the soundings for this event, and you see this area right here. Now, people not used to looking at this. This is the 0 degree line stretching basically straight down here. So at the surface, we're just at or above freezing, but you see this warm pocket about 1 kilometer up. It's about a mile up into the atmosphere. That's the problem. That's probably going to keep this a rain-snow mix. So when we look at this on Saturday into Sunday, just right now the track is not ideal. So we may have to bring out the snow meter just for the rumors and the talk about this. If I look at the actual guidance for Charlotte, and I'll show you this real quickly. This is the average of the models for snowfall in Charlotte right now is only about 0.3 of an inch. That is not real impressive. So, and that's right around Saturday evening. So that's pretty minuscule amounts right now, especially this far out in the guidance. Temperature-wise, we could scroll down to the temperatures here real quickly. I'll show you. You can see it is going to be dramatically colder. So you're looking at highs only in the 40s and 30s for Saturday into Sunday. And some of these overnight lows will be in the upper 20s. So, here comes the warm-up as we go towards Tuesday. We could be back into the mid-60s just ahead of the big front. Whoops. And then you see the big drop-off in temperatures as we go towards the end of the week. So I'm keeping an eye on it right now. It's not a huge chance. I think more so this is just a sign of the pattern beginning to flip, because once this storm moves through, the cold air builds back in on the backside next week, and you can see the cold air. See all this snow? This is basically northwest flow snow. This becomes a pretty big nor'easter up in the northeast. And on the back side of this, you could see much colder air spilling into the southeast. So while this may not be a significant winter storm for the Piedmont, it's certainly going to set the table for maybe something down the road, because it's going to establish cold air back here in the southeast. So stay tuned. The pattern is going to be flipping starting this upcoming weekend, and we'll probably get back to more of a winter threat setup as we go through the rest of January. Of course, I'll have you covered online, on air throughout the week. We'll keep you updated. I'll do these vlogs every day. We'll probably have an updated snow meter coming up tonight just to talk about the potential. And of course, as things change, I'll let you know if that track looks a little more favorable, if we get more cold air, all that stuff right here on my Facebook page. Have a great night, everybody.